Fire Radio.
Hey everybody, Jeremy, National Fire Radio. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, very, very long overdue. Retired Deputy Chief Anthony Avillo, another Jersey guy on the podcast. That is how we do it here. We were saying before, Chief, it's always fun when I get another North Jersey guy on, let alone a Jersey guy. But a North Jersey guy, we're different. We're cut differently than the rest of the state, man. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Listen, you know what? You know what the real big difference is on our football fields? Maybe not you in Bergen County, was dirt and glass and rocks.
Yeah, that's true.
There's the difference with the rest of the state.
I might be a little spoiled in the little neck of the woods that I'm in. However, years ago, growing up, for sure, man, the fields were, it wouldn't be unheard of to fall down on the football or soccer field and get cut by a piece of glass. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I got scars all over me to prove that, man. It is good. But yeah, North Jersey people, man, we're just different, man.
100%. So I want to thank you for joining me on the show. This is long overdue, and I said that in the very upfront because you and I spoke probably over a year ago about getting you on. Our communications kind of went back and forth, and then we just never got together. And so enter the Key City Fire Conference a couple months ago down in Maryland, in Frederick County, Maryland, and you were there speaking, and I was doing the opening. I was doing a keynote for it. And it was great to see you. And I said, oh my God, it just made me think about all these things that we haven't done yet together. And so it was important to get you on. So thanks for taking some time out today to join me. This is awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, brother.
So 30 years retired out of the North Hudson Regional Fire and Rescue. I want to go down that road for a little bit. Over almost this year, October, 40 years in the fire service.
40. Yeah. 40.
You're a published author. You're a speaker, a presenter. You hosted podcasts, talk radio. You've done it all, man. Avid music guy. You're a family man. You love life, bro. That's what I love about it. You're always smiling. You always seem to have this way about you that's infectious. And I think in order for you to deliver your message and your experiences, it takes a personality to deliver on that. And you have that, man. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, listen, you try and keep it real because people can see right through what's not real.
That's right. 100%. And we were just talking about that before we hit record. Authentic and transparent. You got to, if you want to push a message, not push a message, you want to share your message and you want it to get out there, it's got to be authentic. People got to understand and believe in you and who you are. There's no doubt. Yeah. So let's go down this road real quick. Music first. I want to talk about this. You just mentioned you're a big British rock guy. You're going to see the Stones. You're taking your daughters, you said, which has got to be exciting for you. I share music passion with my one daughter in particular, Paige, who just loves. She's my metalhead. She's my alternative music girl. She gets in a car. I just love everything. Like she was listening to Steely Dan the other day. And I'm like, this is just awesome, right? Like, very, very cool. But for you, you mentioned the Beatles. I don't get it.
Really?
I'm just one of those guys, man. I know. I just
show right now.
I know. Listen. That's why I said we couldn't talk about it before I hit record because I knew you'd hang up on me and get out of here. I understand the time frame. I understand what the Beatles stand for. I understand all of it. I just don't. I can't get into their music.
Really?
Explain it to me. Explain it to me.
The only thing I can say is, and I have this thing. I don't have it here. Let me see if I can find it. All right, here we go. No, that's not it. All right. My daughters made me this thing that I show in every class. It says, God, the Beatles, firefighters, everyone else. And
it's accurate, huh? It's accurate.
Yeah, you know what? I grew up with the Beatles. I was born in 1961, so I didn't. I was 3 years old when they were on Ed Sullivan, but
sure.
But my aunts, my cousins, like I remember, like She Loves You, yeah, coming out of my aunt, and I'm probably like this big, you know, and as time went on, my cousin Danny, who lived upstairs from us for quite a while, he was like a hippie. So he bought me, all my first albums, and I remember, getting Let It Be, like right when it came out, and I got Help. And I remember the first Black Sabbath album in his room, and my brothers and I used to call it the Haunted House album,
I love it. Yeah.
The first song was the Black Sabbath song.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, but, somehow the Beatles have, they just speak to my soul, and anybody who you talk like Davy Rhodes. I don't know if you saw the opening ceremony.
I did.
Okay,
I absolutely
he
did.
comes out playing Revolution. On
Yes.
the guitar. And before the show, he says to me the day before, he goes, listen, make sure you're there in the beginning because the beginning of this show is for you. And I'm like, oh man, I'm going, and he goes, it's all about you. And I'm going, oh God, what did I do wrong? What did I, he goes, no. It's all good. It's music. It's about you, So I'm actually this summer, my girlfriend and I, and a good friend of mine and his wife, we're going to do Liverpool.
No. Wow, that's cool. First time?
Yes. Well, we're going to start in Paris, so I got to go see Pierre Lachaise to go see Jim Morrison's grave.
Well, I get it. That's all right. Listen, that's all right.
That's
Trade-offs.
another big passion of Doors,
Yeah.
But, then we're going to go to Liverpool and then spend some time in London. So we're going to, we're going to see the Cavern and Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane, and we're going to, go to Abbey Road. And, it's, I'm really looking forward to it. So overdue, it's a bucket list thing. And,
yeah, it does nothing for me, man.
I know. It's crazy.
You know what it is? Oh, I have a good buddy of mine that is super passionate about the Beatles. Memorabilia, posters on the, concert posters, all of it, right? Huge into it. And you know what it is? Same time frame. So I was born in 77, so you got a couple of years on me, Chief.
Yeah.
But the thing is I find that the people that get super passionate about the Beatles, it's because it was important to them in that time frame. It was that time frame of their life where they were growing up and getting involved and maturing a little bit. And the Beatles just kind of like came right in, and people that are super passionate about them sit there and talk about the nostalgia of it too. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, when they broke up, I was 9 years old, but I had been so influenced by them, and it's weird because as time went on in like the mid 70s, I was, they kind of waned a little bit for me. I was more like Pink Floyd and the Kinks and and Sabbath and all that. And then, I'm a huge Kinks fan.
Yeah, that's cool.
But then, they somehow creeped back in, and now it's just, they're eons beyond everyone else, But I'm really excited to go to London and Liverpool, which is going to be so cool. But here's the thing with the Beatles. They put out 13 albums in a little over 6 years. Some of these other bands, I mean, look, I love Pink Floyd, and I mean Pink Floyd, their albums were like a meteor coming out, and I think that is just the testament to the talent of the Beatles. And what Mick Jagger said is they were a four-headed monster. He goes, Richard said that, listen, you guys had four frontmen. All we had was Mick, but and another thing is, if you saw the Let It Be the Get Back documentary, what they did was they gave themselves 30 days to create 15 new songs from scratch.
Oh, that's right.
Perform it live.
Yeah.
Which they wound up doing it on a rooftop, but they gave themselves 30 days. And in the middle of it, they broke up for like 4 days.
Yes.
5 days.
Didn't they lock themselves in a loft or something like that? Right?
No, they were in Twickenham studios first, and the environment wasn't good. And that's when George left. And George said, I'll come back if we go back to Abbey Road. So then they were Abbey Road studios, and they said, well, we can't how are we going to do a concert anywhere? Like, we can't do it. And, they were saying, well, we can go to the Queen Mary, we can go to the Coliseum. John Lennon said, maybe we should do it in a lunatic asylum because we got to be insane to even think about it. And then they said, just like with Abbey Road, it was like, they were going to call the album Everest, and they were going to go to the Himalayas and all. And they said, sod it, let's just walk across the street.
And they played on the rooftop, right?
Well, and with the rooftop thing, they were like, why don't we just play on a roof?
Yeah.
And last night on the Beatles channel, they had the cop. His last name was Dag, and he was the cop. He was 19 years old that was sent to go break up that concert.
No kidding.
Yeah, so he was on the Beatles channel last night. It was actually pretty interesting, but just the things and the influences and the ups and downs. Look, Dave Grohl, right? You're a big Dave Grohl guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dave Grohl they were interviewing him, and he said, I discovered the Beatles, and he was probably born around the same time as you. He said, I discovered the Beatles, and I was listening to, A Hard Day's Night and Help and She Loves You. He goes, and then somebody handed me, Abbey Road and he goes, and I'm listening to that. I'm going, wait a minute, these are the same guys. So, and that was only like 3 years, 4 years later.
Yes. Yeah.
So you look at the progression of what they did. You play, From Me to You, and then you go and play I Want You from Abbey Road, and you look at that and you're like, what the
well, that is the one thing that stands out to me, though, and I will say that. Like, I have the utmost respect for who they are, what they've done, what they did for music, and all of that. But they really flipped the music industry on end, and then they come out with all these different voices. Like, every song comes from a different place and a different way about it, and whether it's musically or vocally, they're all so very different. It's all different styles, which is incredible. And then as the different albums go, I mean, it just changes so much. So I can understand that, right? I get it.
And all kinds of weird stuff, backwards talking, backwards
right,
stuff hidden, and like Paul is dead, and just
crazy.
Just tremendous,
Yeah. Well, the utmost respect for the Beatles for sure. I just maybe I got to spend some time listening to them again or getting into that. Maybe I got to sit around with a guy like you that knows a lot of the backstory, and you like fill me in as we sit there in a dark room with some black lights on and we start listening.
Listen to the specials on the Beatles channel.
Right.
That's what you want to do, because
that's
those
cool.
are really, really, they dig deep,
Yeah.
But I've always been a big rock guy, in fact, I've seen every Stones tour since 1978.
I love that.
Since
That's
you
cool.
were one, I've been a Live Aid. I went to Nebworth to see Pink Floyd and over in London, and I was at Woodstock '94. I was at the opening of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like, if it's a big show or something, like,
you're gonna be there.
I want to be there.
I get it. And now you share that with your kids, right?
Yeah. My daughters are big Beatle fans, and they play them all the time, and now they're becoming Stones fans. And my one daughter was, Dad, have you heard this? And she started playing me Led Zeppelin.
That's cool.
I was like, right. That's cool.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff is a little far fetched to them, but
I get it. No, there's a lot of great stuff happening. And today's music industry is nothing what it used to be. The artistry, if you will, of creating and developing an album versus today, just one hit wonders just being popped off by anyone.
Yeah.
Not that it's right, wrong, or indifferent. It's just it's different.
Yeah. I've gone back to vinyl. I'm back on.
That's
vinyl.
cool. There's been a big shift on that.
It's so cool.
Where you used to be able to pick them up for a few bucks, now you got to pay top price again for them.
Yeah, unless you go to a Record Riot thing where they
right.
I was at one last week and I picked up about 6 albums for about.
I took my daughter to one in Montclair about a couple months ago. They had one out in like the town square or whatever. I said, let's go check this out, and spent 2 hours thumbing through albums, Yeah. So, but let me ask you this to kind of bring it back around to the fire service a little bit. When you had a hard day in North Hudson, you jumped in the car to go home. What'd you listen to?
Hey Jude.
Hey Jude.
Hey Jude always does it for me.
It does, huh?
Song and make it better.
Yeah.
Hey Jude. And Celluloid Heroes by the Kinks.
So was music always your escape, even young, early on in life?
I don't know if it's an escape. It's just it's a companion.
I love that.
It's an accompaniment. It's a companion. It's an influence. It's a stabilizer. Yeah.
How important is that for you?
Oh God, really
right?
important. Yeah. Well, when I speak, I took a great class. Well, you must know Billy Hobson, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. I took a great class with him on how to become a better instructor. And one of the takeaways I had there, and I do pass it on in my classes, was, and I always give him credit, was before you teach and in any break, do something that has nothing to do with the class.
Love that.
So, I play music videos. I'm playing, like, if I'm out, out somewhere like real far away, I'll make sure I always play Springsteen and Sinatra, or I play music. I'll play movie clips. I'm playing Bugs Bunny and The Godfather and all that sort of thing. And I learned that from Hobson. And while that's going on, you're walking around the room and you're talking to people where you're from, et cetera, and that always helped me sort of it made you appear more human, I guess, to the people in the audience, which, you know, I always, to me, is, you know, I want to always appear that way. I don't want to be like I'm me and you're you guys. You know, we're all together. We're in this together. You know.
Were you like that in the firehouse?
Yeah. I think so. I think I was really approachable in the firehouse. Even as a deputy, I still cooked sometimes. You know.
I love that. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Well, I'd make 5 alarm chili, or I was a good pasta guy and fish and stuff. But quick story about the chili. The last time
Yeah.
I made it. You know, I'd make it, and chili cooks down. You know,
Sure.
when it cooks.
Absolutely.
No, I learned how to make it from this guy Bobby Ellabrock, and so chili cooks down, and I'd make it, and I would tell the guys, look, make sure you stir this. I got to go in the office, take care of some issues, right? And every time I came back, after over a 5 hour period, it wasn't cooking down, and I'm like, why is this not cooking down? I said, all right. So about 2 weeks later, they finally came clean. They said every time you went back there, we poured another can of tomato sauce in. It was too hot. It was too hot. I was like, we were afraid to tell you.
That's hilarious. We let it reduce down too far, so we'll fill it back up with another can, right?
Oh, it was too hot. They were cutting the heat.
Oh, too spicy. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And they were afraid to tell you, right? Yeah. That's what happens when the deputy cooks. Everybody's got to sit there and just eat it regardless. They're not going to tell you it's not good.
Exactly. Well, my friend Pat DePuzzo was an NHL linesman, and we were having a New Year's Eve party. I made some really, really.
I was going to say, I recognize that name.
Yeah, very good friend. We grew up together, and
no kidding.
Yeah,
okay.
He's from North Bergen, and I made really hot chili. And the next day, New Year's Day, he had a ref a game at the Meadowlands for the Devils, and he told me in between periods he had to go into the bathroom.
You're welcome.
Cursing me, and he was passing gas, and he was
oh my god,
he was like the
that's
other
hilarious.
Like you in French, like, who is that?
Yeah, 60 minutes up and down the ice, thanks to you, right? Couldn't wait to get off. Yeah, that's hilarious. How did you? So music was the escape, the companion. I love how you phrase that, and I think it's so important for guys to find an escape from the job. Yep. And, you know, today we talk a lot about the mental health aspect, right, where we need to, you know, as much as we need to focus on the fire department and the public we serve when we're there, we got to take care of ourselves when we're not there, because we need to be present when we come back. And so for you to put on Hey Jude, right, like that was your kind of, you know, resetting your mindset, I would think, right?
Everything's going to be okay.
Everything's going to be okay.
And to this day, when something is just a little bit, you know, when I have some tough going on, you know, I'll put that Beatle channel on, and more times than not, Hey Jude will come on, and I'll say, man, you know what? That's one of my angels, you know, like looking out for me, man, you know.
Well, it could be one of those angels that set you up long ago to enjoy music when you were a little kid, right?
Yeah, quite possibly.
You said the music was always playing in the house, right? You always had access to it. Yeah, that's cool. So, did you grow up in North Bergen? Is that your hometown?
Well, I grew up until I was 9 years old. I lived in Union City.
City.
I lived right up the block from the 16th Street Firehouse. Okay. And I remember, you know, one of my earliest memories of watching the rigs come out of the firehouse. You know, and I used to go down there, and they'd put me in the rigs. And I remember one day they had tillers. We still have tillers there.
Sure.
And, I remember one day watching the tiller pull out and just, you know, sort of go down the block. And the next thing, this other thing comes in, this thing I'd never seen before. And I'm like, whoa. I'm 4 years old, because this was 1965. Right. Snorkel.
Oh, yeah.
American Snorkel. And I didn't know what the hell it was. And I had the view, and they put the thing up, and, you know, they had to put it like an elbow come down.
Absolutely.
Bucket. And I was like, oh, my God.
That was it, huh?
Thing, you know, and I never got a chance to ride in any of the Union City Snorkels. They had 2 of them, but I always remembered it. You know, when the firefighters down there, they knew my dad. My dad was not a firefighter. My mom wouldn't let him be one. She was afraid. He was a contractor, and I always wanted to be a firefighter. And then in 1969, we moved to North Bergen. And to me, that was like moving to the country when it was only about...
Come on, that's like right up the road.
It's only about 1.5 miles away, but there were trees there. You know, there were trees. and it was a quiet street, so,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and it was like the country, and I moved to North Bergen, and I grew up in North Bergen, and I have to say, North Bergen is a place unlike anywhere else on this planet. The people that grew up there, back when I was growing up,
Yeah.
the sports and the dedicated parents, and just all the people. Like, I still have friends from way, way back, and it's interesting. My cousin Jackie, her husband Bruno, that's his last name. He is from an island. I can't think of the name of the island right now. But he's a Caribbean guy,
Yeah.
and he said, I can't put my finger on it, but you North Bergen people are like a tribe. He said you should always find each other, and when you do, there's like no time has passed, and you all
Right.
know each other for 50 or 60 years,
Right.
My brother's got a band, and my brother's band, the Passmasters, plays, around North Jersey and stuff, and every time he plays, they play every couple of months, everybody comes out.
I love it.
It's a North Bergen reunion. You know how to go to a class reunion. My brother's band is a North Bergen reunion, and
It's cool.
I was fortunate enough to play for Vinny Askelis. I coached with Vinny Askelis, a legendary football coach, and
Yeah.
I was extremely fortunate to grow up in that place in the time I did, because there is nothing like it. I can't. If you're not from there, maybe it's hard to understand. But
Yeah. Was it primarily Italian American families there, or was it really the melting pot that it is today? Because that whole area now today is like,
oh God,
unbelievable, right? I mean, it's a melting pot of every ethnicity and country and origin you could possibly think of. But back then, there was probably kind of like Hoboken. I would assume there was a lot of Italian,
Germans, Irish. My friend Cesar Gamio and Abe Garcia were the first Spanish guys we knew, and they took all kinds of abuse, because back then they could,
Right.
But we were all really, really tight, and I played and coached under Vinny Askelis, and Vinny Askelis, one of the winningest coaches in New Jersey history. He used to say family first, and he was a guy that when you spoke to him, first thing he'd ask you, had nothing to do with anything. He'd say, "How's your family?" And North Bergen High School football was like a family. It was extremely loyal. It's just like your family. You don't disrespect the family.
That's right.
And I wrote an article one time called "Firefighting in Football," and I did the parallels, and I can't find it. I'm going to try and find it, because I want to actually submit it to fire engineering, and it just, the parallels between football and firefighting are I mean, there are so many parallels, the dedication,
100%,
all that stuff, and there are a whole bunch of guys that work in North Hudson that either that played for Vinny Askelis and played football at North Bergen, and I interviewed them all, and it was really, really cool, I remember a guy named a chief named Mikey Falco. We used to call him the Rock. He was a center at North Bergen, and he said, Mr. Askelis had a way of reaching into your soul and pulling out the best person you could be.
I love that.
Mark Johnson, another battalion chief, said, when you played for North Bergen, you expected to win. The guy, and these are the quotes I remember on my head. Nicky Prado, who's also a battalion chief now, and I coached him. He was a state champion, just like we were. And he said, when you grew up in North Bergen, there were two things you wanted to do. You wanted to play football at North Bergen, and you wanted to play for Coach Askelis. And the nice thing about Askelis was his coaching staff was family. When I coached there, his two sons coached, and his one son played. And if you wanted ever to, forget the Kardashians, and the greatest reality show would have been his house, the locker room, and the football field, because it was just an experience that
well, he was living what he was preaching.
Yes, because once his kids were old enough to coach, they all did. They all did.
Something that really sticks to me with this conversation and what's important is all these years later, Chief, you can still recite quotes from your buddies that you've worked with that grew up in the same system, and what that coach did for you in that foundation from which you grew in. it really set you on the path that you're here today. Like
Yeah.
you're gloating about
God, yeah.
how important that was to you years and years ago.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, Mr. and Mrs. Ascles went to high school with my mom and dad.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, that's
So
it makes sense.
There are family roots.
Yeah,
family roots all through, North Bergen. And
a lot of that then was what you grew up with, which then makes sense because when you find the fire service, you had those moments at 4 years old watching the snorkel, the tiller, and all those things. You find the fire service then, and when you find it, all the traits that you've been learning, everything that's being poured into you is now exactly in line with what we need and want for the fire service.
Exactly. So interestingly enough, I didn't get on the North Bergen Fire Department. I was in college playing football, and all my friends were taking the exam, and I came home during break just in time to get an application.
Right.
And there were no more applications in North Bergen. So my cousin was a captain in North Bergen. He said, "Hey, listen, go down to Weehawkin. It's the same application. Put in for North Bergen, but put in for Weehawkin too, because they take off a county list sometimes."
Right.
So I put in for Weehawkin. I come out high in the list in both places. North Bergen had a hiring freeze. I got on in Weehawkin.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And then in Weehawkin, I was working in Club Meadowlands, which was a gym in Secaucus, and I met this guy named Ed Flood. And Ed Flood one day comes in, and I'm not on a job yet. He's got a Weehawkin Fire Department sweatshirt, and he was a captain. And I'm like, "Hey, I'm on the list there." And from that day forward, he took me under his wing, and he became my mentor. And I finally, when I got on the job, I was on the engine company for about 15 minutes, and he was on ladder 222, a truck 222, the triple deuce, across the other side of the floor. And he said, "One day you will grow up and you will be here." And it took me about 6 months to get there. But and I passed this on in every class. The first day I got on the job, Ed Flood said to me, "When you leave here tomorrow, if this place is not a little bit better, just a little bit better because you were here, you didn't do your job." I believed it then. I believe it now. We wrote the Full Contact Leadership book together. There are a lot of people out there that talk leadership, and there are some great leaders in the fire service. No one can hold a candle to Flood. Nobody. And I know a lot of people out there. His ability to read people, his ability to understand mentorship, to understand creative discipline, to get people to do what you need to do, and also to make people understand that if you're not doing the right thing, your day is not going to get any better. I learned a ton of stuff from him. He passed away in 2020, but and we used to run the promotional company Study Group. Him and Mike Kern were Study Group, and they brought me on as their instructor, and then they took me on as a partner. And we were in business for about 25 years. We were still in business a little bit. Once in a while, I'll take on a client, but I'm gonna just throw something out there now. There's a lot said about mentorship in the fire service. Nobody starts out looking to be a mentor. Nobody says, "When I grow up, I want to be a mentor." Nobody.
That's right.
But one of the things, and I started talking about this in my leadership class, you become a mentor by doing the job every day, day in, day out, doing the right thing, moving people forward. And you know what happens? You become mentors to people, and you don't ever intend to do that.
That's right.
Just the same thing with people like Flood. He always looking to do the right thing, and actually it's not the right thing. It's doing things right. There's a difference. But the thing with the mentoring is, so many people have said to me, "You've been a mentor to me. You've been, what? How was I a mentor to you?" But you know what? They say, "I just watched your career. I watched how you control, you comport yourself. And that's the firefighter I want to be, And so I don't think anybody starts out looking to be a mentor, or anybody even trains themselves to be a mentor, because I don't think you can do that. I think you have to, live the job, do the job, look, you've been a mentor to a million people, and to be quite honest, when I seen you do that keynote, man, you sorry. You reached into my soul, man, because I saw a lot of parallels to my life, and And I was like, you know what you're doing, those are things that I aspire to do without even aspiring to do them, so I think mentoring, that whole thing of mentoring is, I think it's a little bit off base. The
Well,
way
I
people
I
talk.
think here, let me give you my idea, Chief, and I want to go down this road. I'm glad you opened this door, right?
Hmm.
There's something here that has to be said. It's trusting the process and putting in the work.
Hmm.
Like, we're trying everything in our world today, we're trying to speed up. We're trying to quicken the process. We're
Yeah.
trying to find shortcuts. We're reading voracious readers for leadership, listening to podcasts about leadership, trying to learn everything we can about leadership, which is great.
Hmm.
However, you still have to do the work.
Yeah.
And leadership and good leadership only comes from experience.
Hmm.
You can't
Yeah.
quicken. It's like the fire service. 20, 25, 30 years. If you're in a volunteer service, maybe 60 years. It's a process, and you're always learning and growing and
Yeah.
shaping and molding and moving forward. And we can't quicken that. But
No.
everything else in the world today, we have access to make it easier for ourselves.
Hmm.
But the problem is any blue collar job, a trade, being a fireman, any of it, you have to get in the trenches and do the work.
Yeah.
That's the only way you get better at it.
I think, you know, you're right. That's absolutely right, because I see a lot of guys out there teaching leadership that got 10 years on a job.
Mm.
And okay, look, like, your intentions are noble, but you know 10 years on a job means 5 years ago you were still basically a probie. What have you seen? And look, it's okay, but I didn't start teaching leadership until 2009 2018, or
Right.
2018 was the first leadership class I ever did. 2018. I was on the
It's
job
only
well
6 years
over
ago.
30. Yeah, I was on the
Yeah.
job 34 years. I had been in the
Right.
business 34 years. Then I dipped my toes into leadership. Well, I was
Right.
probably talking about things like that from, here and there, but, I started out with size up. I started out with
Right.
case studies. I started out with ladder and engine operations, and I moved up. I felt, like, who am I to, Brunacini was leadership, who
And
am,
you know what?
who am I
You know
to
what, Chief?
dip
I
my,
don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to say this because I agree with you 100%. I'm excited about this conversation. Is that even with 10 years on, if you want to talk about leadership, that's fine, but stay in your lane and talk about 10-year leadership.
Mhm.
Don't see, the problem is I think everybody strays, and it goes back to our opening conversation of this podcast where we talked about being authentic and transparent. You can be a boss. We're pushing people up the line quicker than ever today in the fire service.
Yeah.
Whether career or volunteer, we have people in the seats that probably don't belong there. And 20 years ago, they would have never have been there. But
No.
they have more opportunity today than ever. And so now they do bring something with them. So if you're a 10-year guy and you want to talk about leadership, talk about the process in the last 10 years and say, I have so much more to
Mhm.
do. I can only talk about this. But
Right.
everybody gets comfortable. They start talking. And next thing you know, you're looking at content or you're looking at a program that comes out. And this guy's talking out of his ass because there's no way he's done it or been
Right.
there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. It's I there and again, there are other things too. There are people out there talking about, I hate to use the word, circumventing the command process. I see something to do, I'm going to take care of it, no matter what the chief says. I see a searchable space, I'm going to take care of that, no matter what the chief says. Look, that's all well and good, but you know what? Rogue firefighting, rogue company officering is always wrong. Always wrong. You know what my job is, and I tell my people, I don't now because I'm retired, but in my class I tell them, look, you find a survivable space. You think you need it, that you want to make a grab, and that's all well and good, but you know what? Tell me about it, because my job then as an IC is to support you with water, secondary means of egress, additional people, whatever it happens to be. But if you don't tell me about it and you get jammed up, now I have to expend people, and it gets more dangerous. It takes more time. And now I got to expend people to get your ass out of a situation that we might have helped you make that a lot better. And now not only did you not make that grab, but you got yourself in trouble where we got to come get you out.
I
I,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, there's a faction out there that is very dangerous to the fire service, and it's usually guys that don't have a lot of experience, but they think they do, and I don't want to be negative about any of that stuff because it's all good stuff. It's coming from a good place, you know.
It is.
And I remember speaking to one guy who's an excellent instructor, and I do trust him, and I think he's got a great message. But I said to him, be careful with your message because some of the things you're saying are going out to people that don't have, you know, and you don't have a lot of experience, but the people don't have the experience that you have. And now they're taking what you say as gospel and they're going to go do what you're telling them to do. And they're going to get themselves jammed up because they don't have that experience. So be careful. You got to put asterisks on a lot of the things you're talking about because you don't want to be responsible for somebody getting over their head because they don't have quite that experience, you know?
Yeah, well, I think what's interesting too about that is like exactly what we were talking about. At the position that you were in when you retired, you had 30 years in the career with North Hudson as a deputy chief. You were touring, talking, lecturing, presenting. You've created a mindset about yourself to understand about leadership and all the things that led up to your career. You have now that 30,000 foot view, whereas that 10-year guy teaching leadership has only got that 10,000 foot view.
Right.
And so that's where the maturity of where you come from is different than that guy.
Right.
Both very important messages,
Sure.
but that's why it's important to talk about what you know. You got to stay in your lane.
Have you put in your 10,000 hours? That's the question. Have you put in the 10,000 hours, you know? And listen, a lot of these guys have great messages, but you know, I just hope that they understand exactly what you said. You nailed it right on the head, you know, like you know, stay in your lane with that type of stuff, you know. Real important to do that sort of thing. But there are some great young guys out there that
100%
are just, you know, moving the business forward. I mean, listen, you had Al Prats on your show, man. And Al Prats was he worked under me. He was a captain. When he got promoted to captain, he came to my shift. He was on ladder 3, I think, as a firefighter. Came on my shift. I put him on engine 4 in my firehouse. And I had a good captain there as well. And I had great captains on my shift. And they mentored this kid, you know. And then I moved him to Squad 1. Squad 1 is a little bit of a big boy step, you know, above Engine 4. Though Engine 4 is super busy. Squad 1 is busy, but Squad 1 also has, you know, other duties, you know.
Right.
And then the plan was to get him to the rescue, but I think I had retired then, and I think he became a battalion chief. And Al Prats, he's in my new book. I can't show you the because it's not out yet. I did a cover, and it's an Abbey Road cover, and it's
of course it is.
It's 4
Of course it is.
It's walking across the zebra crossing in Weehawkin with Hudson Yards behind them in the background. It used to be Hudson. It used to be Empire State Building. And, we go off the air. I'll show you the picture.
All right,
Fire engineering does like it. Al Prats is the guy in the front. He's the chief. It's a chief, a captain, a ladder guy, and an engine guy. And Al Prats is the chief. And I did that purposely because, you know, I don't even say he's a rising star. He's a star. And I need to get him at the FDIC. I keep pushing him. You got to do something on a bigger scale.
You know what I love is though what you said was he was mentored, and you have to be willing to be mentored.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, there's so many parts of the equation. Nobody, like you said, right? And I couldn't agree with you more, that nobody comes up through their career thinking that they're going to be a mentor. And in fact, most people, the real good guys, are the ones that don't even understand that they are, right? 100%. And I think, though, that we have to have people available to be mentored, meaning the individual themselves have to allow people in and have to allow to be influenced by people that are doing it right. That's important.
Yeah, you're never too big to let people in. You know, some of the greatest things that ever happened in my career happened when I was, you know, your career is not all this. It's this, you know.
100%. Peaks and valleys.
Yeah, and some of the greatest influences in my career became people that I didn't realize I was doing this, and then I shot back up, you know, Frank Ritchie and PJ Norwood and Jim Duffy. We did the Tactical Perspectives DVDs, and my God, did that like just rocket my career. The FDIC rockets your career every year, But I was also, the Bergen County Fire Academy, Mike Nasta, Joey Alvarez, Joey
Sure.
Berchtold, and then I wound up at the Monmouth County Fire Academy, and then I get John Pracher and Damian Emmerich and some other great guys. But also, I now am involved in a thing called the Command School, and the Command School is something we do. We started it down. We started it down in Florida, and we're sort of pushing it out a little bit. But it's Jerry Tracy, it's Dave Gillespie, it's Walter Lewis, it's Jay Blake and Rick George and all these unbelievable guys that they're just a sounding board, and we go back and forth, and it's they're in all different places, wellness and psychological and scenarios and leadership. And we do a command school that is, I was just down in Hollywood, Florida last week teaching for Jimmy Russo, who just became the chief of Hollywood. He works in the command school with us. He brought me down to do 3 days of officer training. And in those classes, there were probably about 10 people that came through our command school and got promoted. And they couldn't say enough about how good it was. But these are things in your career that I don't say you have to look for them, but somehow they find you, and they just push you to a high level.
Chief, it's getting in the car after a tough day or a tough tour, and your song comes on.
Yeah.
It finds you. Yeah. It finds you. I think that is the big part about whatever you want to believe in, right? Like if it's fate or whatever it is, right? I believe that you make your own opportunities. I believe that doing the right thing is always doing the right thing. Yeah. And I've really come to learn that. And since starting National Fire Radio in the last 6 years, I am a much better human being today than I was 6 years ago. I can guarantee that I'm a better father, husband, fireman, relationship maker, and all of it in between. I have some of my best friends in my life have only popped up in the last 6 years of my life.
Wow.
I look at the people that I get to work with, the people. Anthony Avillo pops into my life down in Frederick County, Maryland. He's on the podcast 2 months later, and here we are sharing a lot of laughs, and that I know this is going to bloom into a beautiful friendship.
Yeah,
right?
No, it's really good, man. You
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
But that's the thing, and that's what I was getting at about mentorship, is like you have to allow to be mentored. Yeah. I got almost 30 years in the fire service. I'm the dumbest guy in the room these days. I used to think I was the smartest guy. I'm now the dumbest guy, and I love everything about that.
Yeah.
I've really had to come to understand how important it is to let other people in.
Yes. It's interesting because I spent my whole career, the fire service was my life, and did I and do I still neglect other things in my life? Yeah, I kind of do.
100%.
And I'm trying to work on that. I'm trying to be, become a better person and be more well-rounded. A very good friend of mine, who was the deputy, Nicky Gazzillo, that worked after me. We both played for Ascalise. We both played football for North Bergen. He's a couple of years older than me, but he said something to me one day, and I use this in my leadership classes. There are 4 things you should try to do every day: something for yourself, something for your family, something for your job, and something for your home. And it's very difficult to do, really difficult to do, and especially for those of us that do shift work, we work 1 day on, 3 days off, so 1/4 of your time is with a different family.
Yes.
And there are other people that work the 48s and stuff. And, these people are away from their family even more than I was, So, part of me was, I also sort of translate into the fire service, like, listen, the day you're in the fire service, try and do something for yourself, which is to make yourself better, read, study, whatever, try and do something for your home, which is make your firehouse better, your family, which is make your firefighters better, and the job, and if you do those 4 things on that day, well, then you've been well-rounded for that particular day. But this guy Gazzillo, this whole well-rounded thing, it's hard to do, but I try to do that, and
I love it.
And I fail a lot, I have a lot of competing things going on. I'm divorced. My daughters are older now, and I live with a great girl right now, and the balance is sometimes, difficult. And me, I'm a buffoon. I'm a complete idiot when it comes to a lot of that stuff.
Listen, we all are.
I really am.
I'm right there. I'm right there with you. Like, I totally get it. And I think, though, like I've said, and I think you might agree, is like, I always talk about, with maturity comes clarity. And as I've gotten older, I start to realize things get a little clearer to me, and you start to really prioritize what's important. And I think that comes with time. And so that's important. And to recognize where you are, recognize what you have, and then recognize the importance of putting in the work.
Yeah.
But that's why you're a mentor. That is why you do what you do. You've developed that over time to understand the importance of your contributions.
Well, you kind of hope you would,
right?
In the business, I think
we not all learn, though. We don't all learn.
Business, I think I have. In my personal life, I'm still struggling with that,
Yeah,
and
I get
it's
it.
Interesting because you talk about maturity and all that, but the one thing about the fire service is you never have to grow up.
That's very true. That's very true.
That's the one thing about the fire service, and unfortunately, and it's also, you work the 24 or you work your full career, and then you make your transition back to not being the career, or you work your 24. And I always talk about the firefighter profanity disorder, and every time you're in the firehouse, it's there. And then maybe it takes you another 12 hours to get rid of it, when you go back home, and
100%.
There's so many influences that come out of. There's no way, if you've been on for a while, that you are not changed by the fire service. Your I don't want to say your allegiances change in a way, but your outlook changes, your sense of humor changes. Your if you can't, sarcasm is a required job skill. It really is.
If you allow it to infect you, which in a good way.
Yeah.
Because so, like, looking at where we are today, a lot of people aren't subscribing to the fact that the fire service is a lifestyle. I'm a firm believer it's a lifestyle. It's everything about my life revolves around something in the fire service. My friends, my interests, my social media looking, like all of that stuff, it revolves around the fire service. So I think that the fire service for me is a way. It's a way about you. It's a lifestyle. Well, it's not a job. It's not a hobby. It's not any of that. This is a lifestyle. But a lot of guys today don't want it to be their lifestyle.
No, you guzzled the Kool-Aid. You guzzled it. You didn't just drink it. You guzzled it. But yes, you're absolutely right that some of the people now, they're competing interests, and
100%.
And that's one of the things the guys tell me, that are still on the job. It's a little different. There's to try and get guys to buy in, to try and get guys to drink the Kool-Aid. It's and then people who have drank the Kool-Aid, they don't understand why the other guys don't. And to be honest, I don't either. I'm not sure, because it was very clear to me from minute one that I'm all in, like I gotta be all in. If you ain't all in this job, you're all out,
I wonder about environment. I think about, like, when you came up through the firehouse, you had guys like Ed Flood, was it? Right? Like, you had guys like that you were like, I want to be this guy. You had a reason to go to that firehouse every day, not just for the excitement of the job, but also because of the people you're with.
Yes.
There are a lot of guys that don't want to step foot in the firehouse, and they dread going to their career job or the volunteer house because they don't enjoy the process or they don't enjoy the people anymore.
Right.
And that's become a problem, and that's why guys aren't drinking the Kool-Aid anymore. They do their time and get the hell out of there because they don't enjoy being there anymore.
Yeah. It's tough.
We got to get to an environment where it's like, we got to enjoy ourselves. You just said it before. Like, I don't have to grow up. This is a job we don't have to grow up. Like, we can be that little kid like you at 4 years old watching that Snorkel come out for the first time and go, like, oh, like, that's important. And we can still have those moments.
Yeah.
We just have to allow ourselves to have them.
We both thoroughly enjoy the business.
Yes.
Almost to a fault in a way, but I don't apologize.
100% a fault. It gets in the way of everything.
It does. It totally does.
It gets in the way of everything. But you know what it's also done for me? Everything.
Yeah. Yes.
When you let it, right? It interferes with stuff. I was just telling this story the other day in our volunteer firehouse. I want to redo the engineer's room, like the workbench and all that stuff. New counters, all of it. It needs to be redone. And I'm like, all right, let's go. I got countertops in my house we can use, like all this stuff. I'm like, I want to get the guys together and do this. And then I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm going to go spend 3 nights down there, redo the workbenches and all that shit. And then I come home and I look at my house and there's 100 jobs that are 80% done because I didn't finish them here.
Right.
My wife's going to have my ass.
Yeah.
And yet I'm still going to prioritize the workbenches over painting my daughter's room.
It's hard.
Right?
It's hard to justify,
Right?
isn't it?
It's so, to the normal person, it doesn't make sense. To me, it makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, it does. It does. And again, but and the people, the outsiders, they're different. First of all, people always ask us about the job. Nobody's asking the accountant about the job. Nobody's asking you know what I mean? But people always ask about the job. And the other end of it is you get a bunch of firefighters, like, we somehow find each other, and then that's all we talk about. And then
that's it.
Is that all you can talk about? You can't talk about anything else. It's the t-shirts.
Well,
how many t-shirts you got?
Listen, your companion's music, right?
Yeah.
You found something.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important. I don't want to take away. A lot of people get confused when I talk about this, and I don't want people to get confused over it. It's okay to have something outside of the fire service. I want you to. Yeah. I want you to enjoy kayaking, canoeing, skiing, family picnics. I don't give a shit what it is. Go enjoy life, but we just need you all in when you're at the firehouse, and I need you to drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
I want you to drink the Kool-Aid. I need you. The people need you to drink the Kool-Aid.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And when you're there, you're right. You have to be all in. I use this term. I use it in every class, and it's the prime directive, right? Never allow yourself to compromise your in-service and ready status of your command, of your equipment, of your firehouse, of yourself, of your people. Leadership comes out of the firehouse. Leadership on a fire ground doesn't just show up out of nowhere. It comes out of the firehouse. And if you're not leading in the firehouse, if you're not all in the firehouse, there's no way you can be all in a fire ground. Flip the switch mentality is a myth in this business. It is a myth, So I always tell them, and I do the leadership class, I said, look, there's one slide I have, and if you get nothing else out of this class, you need to get this slide. And some people have actually taken the slide in Bloomfield, Louis Venezia. It's in the bathroom over the urinals, and it says, never compromise your in-service and ready status.
I love that.
Yeah, because, once you go out the door, if that's compromised, something bad's going to happen. It has to do with a ton of different things. It covers a million different things, But, that's what you have to be. But, yes, there needs to be a balance. There needs to be a balance, and.
And there is no balance. The balance could be 70-30, 60-40, 50-50 one day. And it's like a marriage. It's like your relationship with your children. Like there is no balance. Everybody's looking for balance. There is no freaking balance. It's what works today is going to work. Yeah. And maybe you can concentrate and work on your relationship with your wife a little bit more. So then your compromise is I need to give her more than I've been giving. Right. So you need to up the scale. But there's no even keel. That's what people I think people get lost in that today. I think people just don't understand. This job, career volunteer, it's a sacrifice on you. Physically, mentally, emotionally.
It's a weight.
Monetarily, all of it. It's a sacrifice.
Yeah. How many?
And we all signed up for it.
Yes. How many?
You don't get the.
Sorry.
You don't get the. You don't know. I was just going to say, you don't get to do this and then complain.
No, you don't. You don't have the right to complain. You chose it.
That's right.
Yeah. And if you don't like it, you're responsible to make it better. That's exactly right. Like, listen, I was never a volunteer. I was on duty when I was on duty. Sometimes I'd be recalled, whatever. But how many times were you pulled away from something?
That's right.
That,
Absolutely.
You were torn in a way, but you had a responsibility to, somebody else,
Absolutely.
In the community,
Yeah.
How long you volunteer?
Going on almost 30 years.
30 years, yeah.
So I was a fireman here in North Jersey for my whole time because I never left. I was born and raised in the same town, thank God. It's a beautiful area.
Franklin Lakes, right?
I escaped. Yeah, I escaped for 5 years, and I was a fireman in Poughkeepsie, New York, in a fire district right outside the city of Poughkeepsie. for 5 years during college, and that was like my heyday, man. I loved it up there. Went to fires, had a lot of fun, rode with the career staff up there. And then my story just didn't allow me. I had to grow up one day. The family business that I went into after school, I had to grow up. And so I had to make a decision, and there was one pivotal day back when the economy bumped in 2008, 2009. And when the economy corrected itself, I had to make a decision whether I was going to take any more fire tests or I had to go all in on the family business. And at the time, I went in on the family business. And so fast forward to where I am today at 40 years old, I had a midlife crisis about the fire service. I wanted to do more. I didn't like the landscape of the fire service at the time. I felt that the platforms that were out there were not innovating. They weren't bringing a new message. They weren't reaching the newer generation. And I was like, fuck it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's what I'm doing.
You've certainly made your mark, man. National Fire Radio. Like I've been looking back at things, and you're an influencer, man. And while it's funny how everybody's got their niche in the fire service, niche. You know what I mean, right? It's just your spot.
100%.
Yeah, and you're pushing information out there, but you know what? You're not just an interviewer. You are also an influencer, and you are also. It's not like you're listening. Well, let me say this right. You're not only listening, but you're contributing. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
And that's, I think, really important. There are a lot of people that I've done interviews with, and they just ask, like you said, they just ask the questions, and they don't have as much to give. You got a lot to give, man. And
Thank you.
I think that's what makes you and your show very, very special. There's not that many out there like that.
We got to do work here. Like it's very uncomfortable for me to sit here for the last 30 seconds and hear that. Yeah. I'm always the guy giving the accolades. I don't need any accolades back. Like that's not why I know. Thank you. I truly appreciate coming from you. It's an absolute absolute honor. And frankly, you were super kind to me in Maryland after I did my keynote, and you came up to me afterwards and you said some very kind words that stuck with me, and I appreciate that. I think ultimately it just comes through in passion. Yeah. I have an absolute passion for this, and I'm super opinionated. I have my points of view, but this is not an interview what I'm doing with you.
No,
this is you and I, whether the camera was on or off. If I met you at a bar, we're doing a beer, or we're hanging out in the backyard or whatever, this is the same conversation.
Yeah.
This is what we need and want.
Yes. Beer mug case study, I call it.
100%. I'll take, bro. I'm the king of that. Are you kidding me? Yeah, absolutely, yeah, no, absolutely.
It's.
I want to ask you, right? So, I mean, you've come up through your career, and you were influenced early on, just not in your childhood, but also early in the fire service with guys like Ed Flood, and I'm sure there were a few others that you recognized as mentors to you. You spoke very highly about a lot of people that are in your circle, guys on your command program that you're doing now. You mentioned a lot of names that I recognize, some names I didn't, right? But these are all influential people. You've been able to navigate the fire service in a great way, which has allowed you to pick up your game and hold yourself accountable and be better than you've ever wanted to be, I'm sure. And there's always room for growth, of course. But my whole point of that is the mentorship aspect of it. You continue to have people influence you along the way. And then at what point did you realize that you had a message to share with others? I mean, your books, right? You're published, your articles, all of it has influenced the fire service, and especially the fireground strategies. That part of it is like, that book's used for like promotional prep. It's used for promotional exams, and it's recommended reading. That's incredible. Yeah, did you ever think that like it was going to get there, or it's regarded in that fashion as a must read for guys on the job?
No, it's interesting that there are people that I come across like all over the country. It says, I read your book for, professional, people in Canada. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even know that, they're using it in, places like Houston and Dallas and all over Florida. And, what it started out as? It started out, I asked Peter Hodge, I'm sure you know Peter Hodge.
Sure, absolutely.
He worked for fire engineering at the time, and I said, I had a whole bunch of scenarios through study group. I said, I'd love to publish these with the answers and all of that. And he said, well, listen, they're looking for somebody to rewrite Mackinac, which was the Mackiniff Strategic Concepts in Firefighting. Really, really old book. Mackiniff was, I've got it over here somewhere. Mackiniff was the chief of the New York City Fire Department, and he passed away. So I said, yeah, I'll write something. So, and I always tell people this, you know how you write a book? One page at a time. And when you get stuck,
Love it.
one paragraph at a time, sometimes one sentence. Bring notes, make notes. So I wrote for quite a while. My ex-wife was pregnant with my first daughter. So I wrote like a whole, like first 2 trimesters. And she was, you know, doing the pregnant thing and I was doing the writing thing. And so somewhere between that, I had met Vinny Dunn, who is, you know, I call him Uncle Vinny. That's a real mentor. My stepfather was his chauffeur in the 3rd Division in New York City. My dad passed away when I was 16, and
Yeah.
you want to talk, that to me was the mentor I lost, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Vinny Dunn says to me, I told him, yeah, I'm rewriting Mackinac. He goes, why would you put somebody else's name on your work? I told him I'd do it, and and it turned out Mackinac family wanted a big amount of money to use his name. Fire engineering wouldn't go for it, and they said, it's your book.
Bye.
Yeah, it's your book. So the first book I did, we had 2002, so most of it was written when I was still in Weehawkin, and so it was only this big. And the second edition it was 7 years later. I had a boatload of experience with North Hudson Regional. I had made deputy, and I just had commanded a ton of big fires. And the only fire I'd ever done before that was the Chart House, which was a $9 million loss. That was my first commanded fire.
Chart House, should be said, it's this beautiful restaurant on the Hudson River overlooking Manhattan, and it's gorgeous, and I love it there. So anyway, go ahead.
Thanks for burning. Shanghai Reds, but
well, back in the day, right?
So
thanks for putting that one thanks for putting that one in the pier so I can get the new one. I appreciate it.
So, that's another whole story, but but I had gotten so much more experience in North Hudson, and the book went from about 350 pages to about 700 pages, and I said,
wow,
they'll cut it down, They didn't cut anything down, so the book was like this now, and I was like, oh my god, But
did you enjoy the process of writing?
I did. I'm actually, the 4th edition is in editing right now, and what happened is I'm still writing it. So when they send me back to galleys, I have more stuff to put in it, so you never end. But I told them this one will, make this the last edition, because you know what? I'm gone 9 years, and let somebody else write it, if they want me to, mentor them to write it or whatever, that's fine. But that was another thing. I wasn't going to write a 4th edition, and I was it was in Tulsa and at the FDIC board meetings, and I wound up getting in a van and sitting right next to Brunacini about a month before he died, and I had a great conversation with him for about an hour and a half, which I had never had the opportunity to do.
Yeah.
And he said to me, he goes, and I gave him a copy of Full Contact Leadership. It was my copy. It was all highlighted in notes, and he kept it. He held it like this, and I said, I'm not even going to ask him back. I'm not asking for it back. But he said, well, what, he goes, you're still valid. You're still a valid teacher. You're out on the circuit. You still have something to contribute. You should write that 4th edition. And that's when I started, taking the notes and writing that 4th edition after Alan Brunacini.
It's awesome. Mentorship, right? People come in and out of your life at moments when you need them.
Yeah.
That's the theme of this whole podcast.
Yeah,
right?
It is, man. It really is. And I've just been very, very fortunate in this business.
Can I ask you a question, though? I feel comfortable enough to ask you this question, and you kind of opened the door, so I want to ask you this.
Oh, boy.
You said that it's been 9 years since you've been on the ground. You retired in 2015, and it's time to pass on the torch after the 4th edition is written. Is that easy for you to say?
No.
Right?
No, I don't think so. I never thought of that. I never thought of that. I bring up an interesting point, but I think I'm a little too far away from the business because the editions come every 8 years or so.
I get it. Yeah, 100%.
I think
100%.
I'll be a little too far away from the business at this point now. I'm struggling going to classes to learn about EV and to learn about the UL dynamics and all these things. And I think I have a really good handle on it. But the business is changing. And I just hope whoever takes up that torch does it with the passion that I have.
Well, you've left an indelible mark on so many, and the guy that didn't plan on being a mentor, you certainly have mentored along your way, and you mentioned guys like Al Prats and others that you've certainly been a part of their process, and I think that the way you've done it, Ed Flood would be proud. Your other mentors from years ago would be very proud of the guy that you've become and the passion that you've shared and passed on to those next generations. And for you to sit here today and to say, like, man, I'm looking forward to that next generation to pick up where I've left off, I freaking love that. And I think that is so important to the process.
Yeah.
We can't, guys want to hang on forever because they just love it. It's a passion. It's a lifestyle. It's them. But sometimes you just got to let a little piece of it go to let somebody else pick it up. And those are the true mentors. The guys that truly understand and get that will give room for others to shine.
Right.
Kudos to you, Chief. It's awesome.
I want somebody to pick it up, and maybe not even be anybody I know. I know they have, a couple of, tactics books and things like that out with fire engineering, and, that's cool, but, that it's big, I don't know.
I get it. 700 pages.
I don't know how I got that big.
It's been a colorful career.
It's a big book. You know what? I have to thank all the people who have helped me with that, especially Ron Jeffers. Ron Jeffers has been, tremendous. Like, where would I get pictures if it wasn't for Ron Jeffers? And now I've used Damian Danis a lot for this book.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a private dwellings in North Hudson. So Damian Danis has some really good shots, and I've used him, not quite as much as Ron Jeffers, but I probably used a good couple of dozen of his pictures for this edition coming up. And, he's been gracious enough to let me use that to do those things. So.
It's exciting. Yeah. When's the fourth edition scheduled for release?
I don't know.
Do you know?
They told me that it's in editing, so we have a meeting coming up. The fire engineering does an authors meeting now every so often, and so I'm going to look for a progress report and see them. I'm hoping by the end of the year, but if it's not the end of the year, then I'm hoping by the FDIC. I'd like to see it released at the FDIC. That would be really cool. I've never had one released at the FDIC. So
that would be great. Yeah, well, I'll be in the front of the line to get a copy for sure.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Signed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Signed.
And that's where, the cover, I'm thinking after 4 editions, I got a little bit of poetic license to do something like that.
Yeah. Well, it would be really cool. Like, yes, you do. And so what you need to do then is take it the next step, and I can help you with this if you want, but once it's digitalized, you need to get that out in poster form, frame it, get it on your wall.
Oh, God.
How cool would that be? Right?
Yeah, I have the other books sort of framed as well, but yeah. Oh, I'd like to send a copy to Paul McCartney.
Yeah, right? How cool would that be? Yeah, for sure. That's awesome, Chief. I mean, just an incredible career, and we didn't even scratch a surface.
Yeah, we didn't. We talked a lot about things that but it was great. It was great. Like, thank you so much.
Listen, that's what this is about. Like, if you want to hear about Anthony Avillo's career, go check out another podcast. Like, this conversation to me is gold. Yeah, this is the conversations I want to have. You want to tell me about fire? Sure, we can talk fires all day long.
Right.
But to find out, I love having the conversations of what makes you tick. Like, what, who's the guy that we don't know?
Right.
And I think we went down some of those roads today, man. I appreciate this. And like I said, there's so many. I always talk about my circles, right? And everybody has their circles of friends. And then you meet a guy, and now I meet, Anthony Avillo, and now his circle has a lot of friends of mine in it that I know are common friends. But now your friends are over here on the other side of the circle that my circle doesn't intertwine with yet, and now they're going to intertwine.
Yeah,
and that's what I love about the fire service. And it's like the people that have helped you and guided you, and whether formally or informally, I have the same type of people, and it's like I love sharing that and making those connections, and that's what this is about.
Yeah.
Like, that's what this is all about, man. You work hard at the firehouse. You have a passion and love for the fire service. Go enjoy it. Go celebrate it with other people that share it, right?
Yeah, networking and passion. Well, that's what the FDIC is too, is 36,000 people who think the same way. It's unbelievable. It's like Disneyland for firefighters. But what's really cool is there's so many great smaller conferences now that have that same feel, like that key conference we went to, man, and the New England Fools, and I'm going to do the Great Lakes Hot, and there's a whole bunch of places that there's just passion, and and I'm glad to be part of that, and I'm hoping that people don't think that I'm just a dinosaur now, and I'm too old, but because I've been sort of getting that vibe a little bit from some of these sort of organizations, and listen, it's okay. I don't care. Doesn't matter.
I wonder though, here's the thing about that, right? Is I don't know if it's so much that, or it's just the talent pool is getting bigger and bigger. There's a lot of younger guys coming up with a different type of message. But my thing is this: I don't care how long you've been in the fire services. If your message is relevant and you're passionate about delivering it, you still have tremendous value to share.
There's a ton of passion out there, man.
Right?
A ton of passion, and these platforms has made it so so, I don't want to say easy, but it's so convenient. Like, I mean, I did the scrap with Corley Moore, and there's another guy with just passion, and listen, I gotta say, like, like, there's so many parallels I draw between you and him when it comes to somebody I talk to on the radio. It was just a great experience, man. And so is this. This has been a tremendous experience, man.
Well, I love having you. And like I said, it's been way long overdue. Yeah. This was supposed to happen like over a year ago. And I guess I dropped the ball or whatever it is. But I also believe that things are meant to be. And, when we came across each other again in Frederick, that was awesome. Yeah. And it was like, hey, Anthony, Chief Avillo's here. Like, I got to get over there and say hello. And it was funny when we talked, you said to me, you go, didn't we do that already? And I go, no, we never recorded. We were supposed to. And you were like, oh, I thought we did it. And I'm like, no, we didn't. But we're going to do it. And here we are.
Here we are.
And
here we are. Yeah. And you were like, I don't think we did it. I got
right.
Now you make it.
Well, you know what it is?
What?
6 years. I got, it's only published that I have like 340 episodes or something, but I actually have like over 600 episodes done.
Wow.
And so, and I don't repeat a lot of the same people. And so for me, it is super important. Like, I love just talking to dudes, like, just love talking to guys and girls that love the fire service. I don't care if you're writing 4th edition leadership books or if you just love riding the back step for the last 15, 20 years. I don't care.
You feed off the passion.
And when it's your show, you get to write the rules. So I get to talk to anybody I want, right? Like, nobody's telling me what I get to do or not do. And, I consider myself one of the luckiest guys in the fire service. And I know I create a lot of the opportunity from which I have, but I'm also very lucky and fortunate to be able to hit it off with guys like yourself and others that just have so much appreciation and value for the job, which just, I come away from a conversation like this today and I go, man, it just doesn't get any better than this. So thank you. Thanks for spending time with me this morning. Yeah, this was awesome. Good. Chief Avillo, where can people find you? They want to reach out. They want to learn more about you. They want to find your 3rd edition, whatever it is. Where can people find you?
Okay, so I have a website now, which I never had. And, it's in its infancy, but, all my classes, there's chiefavillo.com.
Love it.
I have that. I'm on Facebook. I'm easy to find. I'm also on Instagram, but I have no idea how to use it. So, and I'm easy to find, man. That's the one thing about me. If you need to find me, you will. You can message me. I don't care. And listen, I'll go teach anywhere, man. I have such a passion to teach, and I like to travel. So, I've been to 42 states, and I got 2 little clusters that I got to hit.
And if the Rolling Stones are playing in your city, line it up, get a conference the night before, and then he's going to the concert the next night. So
that's what I'm doing at Great Lake Hot. I'm flying to Cleveland.
See? It's perfect.
I'm driving to Michigan, teaching, driving back to Cleveland, meeting my buddies, and we're going to see the Stones.
That's awesome.
It's big.
Good.
It's big.
Well, enjoy it.
Thanks, brother.
Deputy Chief Anthony Avillo, thank you, brother. A New Jersey native, a new friend of mine that we got a long future ahead, pal. Absolutely. And it was just an absolute honor to have you on today. And as a New Jersey kid growing up in the New Jersey Fire Service, Anthony Avillo was one of those names that you just recognized and knew. And so I just want to thank you for taking some time out today, man.
Great.
It was awesome.
Excellent.
Good.
Thanks, brother. Be safe.
Don't go anywhere, Chief. Stay right here with me. I'm going to sign off the podcast. I'll come right back to you, okay? Hang on one sec. Cool. Everyone, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the National Fire Radio Podcast. The luckiest guy in fire service to get to talk to rock stars and legends like Anthony Avillo. What a great conversation. So do me a favor, like I say at the end of every episode, take this conversation, take it back to the firehouse and talk about it, because when we're talking about the job, we're making the job better. We'll see you at the next one. Jeremy, National Fire Radio. National Fire Radio.